The untold story of Jack Sheppard, the man who escaped prison 4 times. I am the shepherd, and all the jailers in the town are my flock. These lines are not from a movie or a fictional novel. These are the remarks that depict the life of a criminal whose honest approach and modesty continue to inspire readers today. This is Robber's Insights, and today we will explore the life of a man who was convicted to death without spilling even a drop of blood. His name, Jack Sheppard. Jack Sheppard was born in White's Row, London's Spitalfields in 1722. Due to severe weakness and signs of sickness at his birth, his parents feared early death of their child, and he was baptized a day after his birth at St Dunstan's, Stepney. Sheppard's first name was John, which was kept after his elder brother, who had died before Sheppard's birth. However, he later became known as Jack, or even Gentleman Jack, Honest Jack, or Jack the Lad. Jack suffered from family issues early from his childhood. His father, who worked as a carpenter, died while he was young, and his sister Mary passed away 2 years later. The trauma of helplessly witnessing his family members leave him at a young age had a huge impact on shaping his identity and his thought process. Sheppard's father was the breadwinner of the family. His death led to immediate financial crises at their home. In order to deal with the financial situation, Jack's mother sent him to Mr. Garrett's school, a workhouse near St. Helens Bishopsgate, at the very young age of 6 years. Sheppard's primary duty was parish apprentice to a cane chair maker, where he earned around 20 shillings, but unfortunately soon his master died. Following the death of his master, he was immediately sent to a second cane chair maker, as the family could not afford a financial break. However, his second master had no sympathy in his heart, and as a result, Sheppard underwent poor treatment at work. Sheppard's suffering continued until he was 10 years old, when he went to William Kneebone, who owned a shop on the Strand. Sheppard worked as a shop boy for William. In return, not only did William Kneebone give him his legitimate earnings, but most importantly taught him how to read and write. After several years of experience at the shop, Kneebone sent Sheppard to Owen Wood to work as a carpenter, where he signed a 7-year indenture on 2nd of April 1717. Despite initial years of struggles, it finally seems that Sheppard's life had taken a linear path. But what happened next shocked many. Within his few years at work, he had already begun to show great signs of becoming a skilled carpenter. Although his initial struggles with proper nutrition restricted him at the height of 5'4" with a lean body, his years of physical work had made him deceptively strong. Sheppard had mixed up with the community very well in Drury Lane. Despite a slight stutter in his speech, his wit made him popular. He worked for nearly 5 years of his apprenticeship, but when something unusual happened, Jack began to get involved with crime. While Sheppard worked at Drury Lane, a man named Joseph Hayne owned a shop where he worked as a button molder. Joseph Hayne was known as the Black Lion of Drury Lane, and his shop had frequent visits of criminals. One key criminal among them was Joseph Blake, who not only was Sheppard's initial partner in crime, but also operated gangs across London. Even more surprisingly, he later turned into Sheppard's implacable enemy. Sheppard's visit to Hayne's shop was the turning point of his career, but also for his life. In his biography, Sheppard mentioned that he had been innocent until going to Hayne's tavern. There he began to develop a strong attraction for drinks and affection for Elizabeth Lyon, who was a prostitute from her birthplace at Edgeworth in Middlesex. Historian Peter Linebaugh critically analyzes these turning points in Jack's life, but also credits his transformation of personality as the youth mixed with criminal life, which liberated him from physically tiring duties and shifted him into a self-confident rebellion. Sheppard's life transformed from an innocent, hard-working youth towards a notorious criminal. He became habitual of drinking and fornication, and inevitably his profession suffered. While Sheppard's master was unhappy with his poor performance, he had already planned to switch his career. Sheppard thus officially stepped in crime. His first recorded theft was in spring 1723, where he engaged in petty shoplifting, with a mere robbery of 2 silver spoons. Lyon's encouragement towards his first crime and failure to be caught progressed into larger crimes. He began to conduct thefts at houses he previously worked at and joined Jonathan Wild's gang. By the month of August of 1723, Sheppard had already quit his job at the Apprenticeship, but to avoid suspicion, he continued with his profession of carpentry. Sheppard relocated to Fulham, where he married Lyon, and then relocated to Piccadilly. Sheppard's first hurdle in his profession of crime came when he intended to commit a burglary with his brother, Tom, and his wife, Lyon, in Clare Market on the 5th of February in 1724. However, his brother Tom, previously convicted, feared execution and informed on Sheppard, which led to his warrants of arrest being issued against him. However, his arrest did not come out easily. In fact, it was later the result of a betrayal by the gang member of Jonathan Wild, whose name was James Sykes. Jonathan asked James Sykes to challenge Sheppard to a game of skittles at Redgate's public house near Seven Dials, where he informed the police and received his 40 Wes reward for assisting in the arrest. Shortly after his first arrest, he was locked up on the top floor for further investigation by the magistrate Justice Perry. However, Sheppard escaped within 3 hours by breaking through the timber ceiling and lowering himself to the ground by using a rope from his fashioned clothes. This escape by Sheppard is certainly admirable, particularly for someone so inexperienced. Yet his first escape was only a glimpse of his future. Little did he know that it would soon become his reason for fame and legacy in the coming times. His first escape, however fascinating, did not last for long. He was again arrested on 19th of May 1724, while picking a pocket in Leicester Fields. Sheppard was detained overnight in St Anne's Roundhouse in Soho and was visited by his wife Lyon the next day, although on the recognition of being his wife, she was also locked up with him in the cell. Justice Walters sent them to the new prison in Clerkenwell, but they successfully escaped from their cell by clambering over the 22-foot-high prison gate. Jonathan Wild was a great admirer of Sheppard's thieving abilities. He demanded Sheppard to surrender his stolen goods, but Sheppard refused to do so. Meanwhile, Sheppard began to work with Joseph Blueskin Blake, where they conducted a burglary at his former master, William Kneebone's house on Sunday, 12th July 1724. Sheppard's robberies began to create hurdles for Jonathan Wild as he continued to invade his territory, and Jonathan now desperately began to seek arrest warrants for him. Now, with Jonathan Wild as his enemy, the third arrest of Sheppard wasn't that difficult. One of Wild's men informed on Sheppard while he was at Hampstead Road. Wild plays the tricky game by inviting Lyon to the Temple Bar and plies her with drinks until she betrays her husband and tells his whereabouts. This led to his third arrest at Blueskin's mother's brandy shop in Rosemary Lane, east of the Tower of London. Sheppard was prosecuted on 3 charges during his imprisonment at Newgate Prison, but luckily he was acquitted on the first 2 due to lack of proper evidence. However, for his recent burglary at his former master's house, 3 people witnessed the crime: Kneebone, Jonathan, and Field. Due to the provision of evidence, the case was closed and Sheppard was sentenced to death on 12th of August. The date for his execution was set up for 4th of September, but Sheppard's smartness led him to escape the prison for the 3rd time. This particular escape was far more peculiar than any before. There, he was visited by Lyon, who brought her female clothes. Thanks to his lean physique and small height, he was successful in climbing through the resulting gap in the grille and smuggled out of Newgate in women's clothing. He subsequently traveled through a coach to Blackfriars Starries, took up a boat ride from River Thames, and reached Westminster, where his escape was finally complete. By the time he completed his 3rd escape, he had received massive attention from the public. He was viewed as a hero who was non-violent, handsome, and seemingly smart enough to escape any prison he was brought into. However, his increasing reputation was a threat to the law enforcement agencies. They were able to arrest him once again on 9th of September by a posse from Newgate as he hid on Finchley Common and was returned to his cell at Newgate. His fame had grown further, and people even came to meet him in the prison cell. The security, however, was tightened this time. During his checking, they found numerous tools that he could use for escape. He was promptly transferred to a strong room in Newgate, known as the Castle, put in leg irons, and chained to 2 metal staples in the floor to prevent any further attempts for escape. Sheppard attempted to escape by using a small nail to unlock the horse padlock. He was then bound more tightly and handcuffed. Meanwhile, Blueskin Blake was arrested by Jonathan and his men on Friday 9th October, and Tom, Jack's brother, was transported for robbery on Saturday 10th October, 1724. New court sessions began on Wednesday 14th October, and Blueskin was tried on Thursday 15th October, with Field and Jonathan again providing evidence. Their accounts were not consistent with the evidence that they gave at Sheppard's trial, but Blueskin was convicted anyway. Enraged, Blueskin attacked Jonathan in the courtroom, slashing his throat with a pocket knife and causing an uproar. He was lucky to survive, and his control of his criminal gang was weakened while he recuperated. Taking advantage of the disturbance which spread to Newgate Prison next door and continued into the night, Sheppard escaped for the 4th time. He unlocked his handcuffs and removed the chains. Still encumbered by his leg irons, he attempted to climb up the chimney, but his path was blocked by an iron bar set into the brickwork. He removed the bar and used it to break through the ceiling into the Red Room above the castle, a room which had last been used some 7 years before to confine aristocratic Jacobite prisoners after the Battle of Preston. Still wearing his leg irons as night began, he then broke through 6 barred doors into the prison chapel and landed on the roof of Newgate, 60 feet above the ground. He went back down to his cell to get a blanket, then back to the roof of the prison, and used the blanket to reach the roof of an adjacent house, owned by William Bird, a turner. He broke into Bird's house and went down the stairs and out into the street at around midnight without disturbing the occupants. Escaping through the streets to the north and west, Sheppard hid in a cowshed in Tottenham. Spotted by the barn's owner, Sheppard told him that he had escaped from Bridewell Prison, having been imprisoned there for failing to provide for a non-existent bastard son. His leg irons remained in place for several days until he persuaded a passing shoemaker to accept the considerable sum of 20 shillings to bring a blacksmith's tools and help him remove them. His manacles and leg irons were later recovered in the rooms of Kate Cook, one of Sheppard's mistresses. This escape astonished everyone. Daniel Defoe, working as a journalist, wrote an account for John Appleby, The History of the Remarkable Life of John Sheppard. In his history, Defoe reports the belief in Newgate that the devil himself came in person to assist Sheppard's escape. With each escape, Sheppard was more and more in the spotlight of the public and difficult to remain hidden. His final period of liberty lasted just 2 weeks. He disguised himself as a beggar and returned to the city, where he broke into the Rawlins Brothers pawnbroker's shop in Drury Lane on the night of 29 October 1724, taking a black silk suit, a silver sword, rings, watches, a wig, and other items. He dressed himself as a dandy gentleman and used the proceeds to spend a day and the ensuing evening on the tiles with 2 mistresses. He was arrested a final time in the early morning of 1st November, drunk, in a handsome suit of black, with a diamond ring and a carnelian ring on his finger. This brings us to the question about his 4th term in prison. Could he succeed in escaping one more time when everything is at stake for the law enforcement agency's reputation? Unfortunately, not this time. Sheppard was placed in the middle stone room, in the center of Newgate next to the castle, where he could be observed at all times. He was also loaded with 300 pounds of iron weights. He was so celebrated that the jailers charged high society visitors around 4 shillings to see him, and the King's painter James Thornhill painted his portrait. Several prominent people sent a petition to King George I, begging for his sentence of death to be commuted to transportation. Sheppard appeared before Mr. Justice Powis in the Court of King's Bench at Westminster Hall on 10th November, where was offered the chance to have his sentence reduced by informing his associates, but he scorned the offer, and the death sentence was confirmed. The next day, Blueskin was hanged, and Sheppard was moved to the condemned cell. It was the morning of 17th November 1724, when people across the neighborhoods gathered in London to witness the legend of Jack Sheppard one more time. Despite the hope of people that he would be successful one more time to somehow escape the execution, There was no miracle to save him this time. Ultimately, Jack Sheppard accepted his fate and breathed one more time before he was hanged by the rope, which led to the final ending of his long struggle of hide and seek with the police. Immediately, there was a spectacular public reaction to Sheppard's deeds, which were cited favorably as an example in newspapers. Pamphlets, broadsheets, and ballads were all devoted to his amazing experiences, real and fictional, and his story was adapted for the stage almost immediately. The account of his life remained well known through the Newgate calendar, and a 3-act farce was published but never produced. But mixed with songs, it became the Quaker's Opera, later performed at Bartholomew Fair. An imagined dialogue between Jack Sheppard and Julius Caesar was published in the British Journal on 4 December 1724, in which Sheppard favorably compared his virtues and exploits to those of Caesar. As time passed, Sheppard became more famous in literature. Perhaps the most prominent play based on Sheppard's life is John Gay's The Beggar's Opera, where Sheppard was the inspiration for the main character of Captain Macheath William Hogarth. Sheppard's tale has been revived multiple times in the 19th and 20th century, and eventually became a legend for the readers. Sheppard's story continues to inspire people around the world. His difficult life likely played a big role in shaping him. He faced unimaginable hardship at a young age, losing his father and siblings before he was even 6. By the time he was just 6 years old, he started working and experienced terrible treatment. Things got even harder when he was betrayed by both his brother Tom and his wife Lion. Despite all the suffering, Sheppard remained a humble and honest man. He valued his dignity more than his life, which is why he refused to cooperate with his partners and faced execution. Comment below the video and let us know about your thoughts on the life of John Sheppard. We hope you enjoyed the video and appreciate our content. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on a new story. And until next time, stay curious.